Hello and welcome to this multimedia series on the environment on CNC3. I'm Ira Mathur. Today we're talking green buildings. What is this? Before I did the research, all that came to mind to me, I'm ashamed to say, was a building painted green. Go ahead, laugh. Thankfully, now I know different. The American Institute of Architects claims that the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption worldwide is buildings. Buildings account for an estimated 48% of all greenhouse emissions. And as we know, in addition to dumping our plastics, electronics and glass, buildings have been rising helter-skelter with few controls throughout the country. Our quarries stand like wounds on our land as government has turned a blind eye. Studies show that 40% of the pollution by a building is generated during its construction. How? Through lack of recycling of building materials, damage to environment, through construction, erosion and sediment produced during construction. We are familiar with sites dug up and looking like a muddy mess. That soil ends up in the water. We can no longer afford to be so careless. Over the last 30 years, the world's developed nations have been moving towards green building practices and sustainable development. The reduction of energy use is vital as countries seek to maintain their competitive advantages by exploiting alternative sources of energy and reducing dependency on the traditional fossil fuels. I ask you this question: why should an oil-rich country like ours be trailing behind first world countries? It is encouraging to know that in Trinidad and Tobago there are builders who refuse to be left behind. Today my guests are engineers Devinand Ragbir and Ramdeo Maharaj. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. The first question is, what is a green building?
Well, a green building is really a practice of producing and creating structures using processes that are environmentally responsible and that make maximum use or most efficient use of the energy and resources at its disposal. And it goes through the entire life cycle of the building, from the time you select a site to the time the building is demolished. Together with green building, you will hear terms such as sustainable development, integrated project delivery methods, whole building design. All these things go together. One of the other more important things is commissioning of buildings. So all these things will help you produce a building that is very efficient in its scope and detail.
Well, you know, in Trinidad, we're so used to devastating our environment that this is a completely new concept to us. Devinand, have you actually studied how green buildings are made? Models, perhaps?
Well, during our time in studying buildings, we got certified by the Green Building Certification Institute of the United States, who are the certifying body for the U.S. Green Building Council. So we have gained fair education with regards to the general concept of green building and the way to implement its practice. Therefore, our first step that we did in Trinidad, myself, Ramdeo, and a few other colleagues that have this certification, is to set up Trinidad and Tobago Green Building Council, whereby we aim to educate all the nationals of Trinidad on green building, because as you rightfully said, a lot of people have no idea what green building is. They think green building is putting up a building around trees, plants, anywhere closer to the untouched environment, which is absolutely wrong. Green building actually promotes the development of buildings within an urbanized area, whereby it can sustain itself and have minimum impact on the untouched environment. The buildings itself, as Ramdeo mentioned, it's from extraction of materials down to the deconstruction of the building itself. It's a life cycle assessment of every single thing that pertain to the building.
Okay, let me ask you something. Why should we in Trinidad and Tobago care about it? Does it make money for you guys to go green?
Definitely. Definitely. There are many benefits of green building. Energy management, energy savings. Trinidad and Tobago, although it is subsidized by the government, our energy bills, sooner or later the government will in fact raise electrical rates, gasoline rates, everything that everything that deals with hydrocarbon and fuels. green building itself shows strategies whereby you reduce the quantum of energy utilized on these buildings. Example, the first step of conserving energy is not buying renewable stuff. The first stuff is having a conservative culture embedded within the occupants of the building and the owners of the building. If you have a building and you practice proper maintenance, you'll reap the benefits. A lot of people do significant investment into all kind of green technology in these buildings. It costs a lot. So therefore, the normal man on the street believes green technology is very, very expensive. But in fact, the first step towards green technology is maintain what you have. Adopt a conservative culture. In your homes, control your lighting. Control your air conditioning. Watch what you do at your home. That's the first step. And that way, you will be able to reap the benefits of green.
Okay, I think everybody wants to know when they're watching something like this, what's in it for me? I want to build a home. Is it going to be cheaper? Are my energy bills going to be cheaper? In any event, I think water bills are not very high and our gas bills are not very high because we live in an oil-rich country. So they're going to say, what's in it for me, Mr. Maharaj?
But your energy bills will be much lower because you'll be using efficient appliances in your household, things like your fridges, your freezers, all the appliances, water heaters. As far as the water is concerned, until we start putting in water meters in people's buildings, there would not be that incentive to save water. In green buildings, there's an area called measurement and verification. If you cannot measure something, you wouldn't be able to verify how much water is being used. And there's no incentive to conserve water in the building, because right now we get a flat bill. But we can also use solar water heaters and reducing our energy bills in our homes.
Okay, well, we want to hear a little bit more about that. We'll take a short break. As you watch, I want to remind you to send in your comments and suggestions to cleaningupthemess@guardian.co.tt. This is an environmental special on CNC3. We'll be right back.